A child comes into the world with no beliefs, no ideologies, no gods, only questions. Children are not born with doctrines in their heads. They are born to observe, to imitate, to learn from the environment around them. That's how they survive. That's how they grow. But that also makes them vulnerable. Childhood is not just a phase of growing up physically. It's a time when the core of a person's mind is built. A child's sense of what is true, what is right, what is dangerous, what is moral. It all begins taking shape in those early years. And this is where religion steps in. Not as a humble teacher, but as a hijacker. It doesn't wait for the child to think. It doesn't wait for the child to question. It steps in early, before the child even knows what critical thinking means. Children believe what they're told. That's not a flaw. That's how nature designed them. If a parent says the stove is hot, the child believes it. If a parent says monsters are real, the child believes that too. The line between fact and fantasy is still under construction in a child's mind. And in that fragile space, religion plants its seeds. The stories of heaven and hell, of sin and salvation, of angels watching and devils tempting, these aren't neutral tales. They are emotional weapons disguised as bedtime stories. When you tell a child that there is an invisible being watching every move they make, judging their thoughts, keeping a record of their actions, that shapes how the child forms their sense of self. They learn that their value is not based on who they are, but how obedient they are to invisible rules. That's psychological conditioning, not spiritual guidance. And the consequences are deeper than most people think. Early exposure to religious belief doesn't just shape opinions. It builds mental architecture. It builds neural pathways that make it harder to question authority. It discourages doubt. It trains the brain to accept big answers without evidence. And when that starts in childhood, it becomes the default mode of thinking for the rest of life.